You're listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we're listening to the TikTok workshop that was presented at Children's Institute 2022 in Phoenix.
Welcome to TikTok Workshop. How are y'all doing today? Enthusiastic crowd. I like it. I'm Nicole. I am the owner of Betty's Pages in Lowell, Michigan, and I will be one of our moderators.
A round of applause for Betty's Pages. And I'm Cassie, and I'm over at the Novel Neighbor in Webster Groves, Missouri. Hello. I lived in California, but the bookstore's not there. Thank you so much. I feel really complimented by that. All right. So we're talking about TikTok today. Show of hands, who's very familiar? Show of hands, who wants to be more familiar? And show of hands, who's not familiar at all? This was extremely helpful. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. Who already has TikTok on their phones? Better question. So sorry. Who doesn't? Do it now. Do it. Be on your phone while I'm talking. Because this is a workshop, so there's going to be like an activity. There's no volcano. You won't have any baking soda. Here, you start talking.
All right. So while everybody is downloading TikTok, I'm actually going to start recording a TikTok because that's how I do it. So when you have the app open, we're going to do this all together. So we're talking about TikTok, which is one of the newer social media platforms. If you are on TikTok, just like personally, like raise your hand. Okay. Yeah. Cannot recommend that enough. If you take nothing else away from this workshop, be on TikTok personally, because you are going to see what is trending, what is popular, what people are reading, and you're going to want to be on TikTok. Just purely from that standpoint, you're going to want to be there because that is where these conversations are happening. But overall, TikTok is a video sharing platform of small videos, usually a minute or less. You do have the option for longer videos, but we'll get into that in a moment.
Yeah, we'll talk about the goal today is that by the end of this session, you know how to make. Is that you know how to make like a quick video. And there's obviously so many different ways to do it. It's one of our favorite things about this platform is that no individual's TikTok looks like somebody else, and you can thrive and succeed in so many different ways. But it is a very powerful platform right here now for exposure for your store, for selling books, and for everything else. Let's talk about steps. Actually, really quickly, you can rate this workshop in your Ci10 app, which I downloaded right before this, and it is very cool. And also a big thank you to Ingram for sponsoring today's workshop. And I'm good, and we are on slide 5. Okay. Nicole talked about watching content and that being like a tent pole, and that is completely true. TikTok is an algorithm-based website, so instead of something, all social media platforms have algorithms, which means that they're looking at what you see and they're trying to give you more of what they think you might like. If you are on your bookstore page and you are only engaging with other book content, then it's going to figure out that you want to see more things about books and that you might want to make things about books. And you'll find the niche of things that are trending for other bookstores or other book talkers, etc. If you're on your personal page, you might also get ideas that you could use for your bookstore. Maybe you have like ancillary interests, like you're really into horses or bicycles. TikTok can figure all of that out. It's one of the coolest things. You could argue that it can be a little scary because it's so intuitive. I feel it knows me better than I know myself. But that's great. Right.
It will also figure out things you don't know about yourself, which can be interesting. And you're like, I didn't realize I was so into this content, and here it is showing up over and over again on TikTok, which can be fun. All right. So as you are interacting with your For You page, which is just kind of the main screen when you are on TikTok and you are scrolling, the longer you are in it, the more that it will know you and give you more content. And the more you engage with specific content, it will do that. So you will really, if you want to get to know somebody, just say, hey, can I look at your For You page for a few minutes? And you will learn a lot about them. I have found that out. Yes. It's a good icebreaker. You can be like, do I want to be friends with you? Show me your FYP. And if they know, they know, and that's what you should do. So the next step, when you are just starting out on TikTok and you're like, all right, I'm ready, I want to start putting content out into the world, the number one thing you're going to want to do is know your style. When you're on the For You page, you're going to see a lot of different styles of how people make content. Some of them you're going to like, some of them you're not going to like. Do the things that you like, and you will feel more natural when you're doing that. Number one recommendation, find good lighting. So for instance, in this room, I have great lighting for my TikTok for on me because I have a direct light source. Look at how lovely she looks.
If you're using a selfie camera and me and Nicole's light is there, you're going to face the light and you're going to hold your camera where your camera is facing you and the camera is not facing the light. So good, bad. Because if the light source is in the back, then the whole video is going to get blown out. And TikTok wants to show you content that you can see that is high quality. High quality just meaning like you can see and hear everybody in the video.
Yes, you will find different levels of people doing things on TikTok. Cassie and Novel Neighbors are very cinematic. They're. I think so. All of my TikToks. Who's seen me on your TikTok? Yay, thank you. You'll notice that all of mine are very simple. It's literally just me looking into my camera because I'm a low-key kind of girl. I don't have a lot of time, so I just set my camera up. I have 3 spots in the store that I really like that have great lighting, and I know that now because I've had lots of really badly lit videos and learned from it. And those are where I go and do my TikToks all the time. So all of my content is generally from about 3 angles in my store. And that's it. I personally just like that for simplicity's sake. And then you'll see Cassie and Novel Neighbors and they're like running all over the store and they're very fancy and I'm like cutting stuff. And I was like, I can't do that. It's fine.
Again, what's great about TikTok as an app as opposed to maybe other longer form video content platforms is that like you can do it in whatever way feels most comfortable to you, and there is an audience for that. I think a lot of times when we talk about TikTok, everybody thinks that they have to make videos for like 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and that's just not true anymore. Like there is an audience for literally whoever you would like to talk to, and when you watch videos, you'll be like, oh, I really like that. Or, oh, I really don't. That's not my vibe. And you can kind of start recreating that, playing with that, figuring that out. We'll talk a little bit about like stuff like trending sounds and other stuff like that later. But again, like TikTok can be as simple as you want it to be, and it can be as complex as you want it to be. Like you could do a lot or you could do a little. And we're going to teach you some basics and please, like it is not a mountain. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, my favorite kind of idea with TikTok is just kind of fuck around and find out. Just go with what feels good and what feels natural. As with any social media platform, if you're having fun and you're being genuine, that's going to come through regardless of how fancy your equipment is or how great your cuts are or anything like that. If you're on there and you're like, I really hate this, it's going to show. And people are going to figure that out. And so one thing also, when you're doing TikTok for your store, if you're the owner, you don't have to be the person who does your TikToks. I do mine because I was owner operated and the only employee, so I didn't have anybody else who could do it, and so I just did it. But Cassie doesn't own Novel Neighbor, and when you think Novel Neighbor on TikTok, you think Cassie, and it's fine.
We were opened in 2014 by Holland Saltzman, and she has been like, hey, I want you to do this, and I don't. And that's great too. Like if you have some very like eager booksellers who are like, I really want to run with this, I would encourage you to kind of like let them play around and run with this. Like it's not everything has to be so scary. Like these are fuck around and find out.
That's my favorite face. Yeah, and especially if you have, younger employees who are working for the store and they're naturally just on TikTok and enjoy it anyways, it's going to be a lot easier for them to do it. Just give them some parameters of what you would like to see that, fits your vibe of your store. And let them go for it. Like, it's awesome.
Which is not to say that you can't do it. You're here because we know that you can. This is just to give you more options if you don't want to.
Yes, we have faith in you. Literally everybody should and can be on TikTok. There is a niche out there for all of us. So yeah.
We talked about light. I want to talk really quickly about sound because these are just some like little basics. When you are recording on your cell phone, the sound port largely is going to go through the bottom If you're recording somebody else in your store, let's say, I don't know if anybody watches like Schuler's book, Skylar's book, where they do all of the like rapid reading videos and they like pull from the thing and then they run around the store. When you run around the store, make sure that your finger is like holding your phone up, but not blocking the mic, because then you won't be able to hear anything. If you're recording yourself in a selfie video, I like using this little corner where it doesn't touch the mic. You can also hold it this way and press down on the sides to start and stop. And that way you're not touching any of the mics. This sounds so silly, but muffled videos just don't perform well for some reason, being that they are muffled. There's also a mic on the front. So sometimes it'll like, your phone will balance out depending on which iPhone and / or other phone that you have.
Or you can get a really fancy wallet case like mine, and I literally just plop it on the table and film my TikToks. There's also like selfie sticks and like tripods and stuff like that, but I'm very basic. I just use my phone case to hold, like I'll plop it up and there it goes. It's perfect. So also make sure your camera is clean. Mine gets really gross and dirty very easily. So before I do a TikTok, I always just wipe it off so that it looks really nice. Personally, when I'm filming TikToks, I actually film just directly into my camera app on my phone. Almost 99% of the time, I will film that way instead of inside the app on TikTok. It's just a personal preference thing for me. I like being able to do it on this, watch like the timer, because I make sure all of my videos are under a minute. And that's why I talk really fast all the time. And so like when I do it in this, I can see myself. I don't have to do invert, which we'll talk about in a minute. And it's just really convenient for me. And then I know you guys use something else.
Well, for a long time, we recorded in TikTok, and that worked well for us, just because I thought like TikTok has its own editing software, and it just got like a really fancy studio built into it. So if you want to start in TikTok, that's great and easy, and I'll show you how. I also now edit into my camera app because I edit off of TikTok purely because Instagram is now a platform that also prefers video. So now we're cross-posting our TikToks on our Instagram. If you record in TikTok, TikTok will let you download your video, but it's going to let you download it with a watermark. And then Instagram, when you put it into Instagram, it will see the TikTok watermark and it'll be like, you made that for somebody other than me. And no, I'm not letting you come to my party now. So I would suggest if you're looking to put content on different platforms, maybe film in your phone, and then you can put those clips into TikTok and edit them there. But then you'll have the clip somewhere else. So you could also put them to Instagram Reels and edit them there. You don't have to. I think TikTok is really intuitive. And if you're not interested in doing Instagram Reels right now, or you just want to figure out the basics, TikTok's app editor is really easy to use. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. Great. We talked a little bit about the different styles of our videos. And I think that that's going to be helpful today because you do yours in like one take. She's a one-take wonder. We do ours in about 40 takes and it's just us blabbing in the corner of the bookshop. There are people who like stand and specifically watch and wait for the book afterwards. It's very fun. It's very funny. But that's just to say like, hey, if you don't have time for this and you want to do like it can be a production or it doesn't have to be a production. Again, we're just giving you options. Sometimes when I'm featuring a bookseller who doesn't have a lot of on-camera experience, I'll often write things out for them and then we'll just say one sentence at a time and then I'll edit those sentences together, which makes them feel less like they have to perform a whole minute, like stressed. But if you're recording yourself, a lot of times I do that one take as well. And then I'll just jump cut myself so I don't have big pauses.
I thrive on stress. And so it's really fun for me to be like, can I recommend 6 books in under a minute and not mess up at all? And then when I do have the ones where I mess up, of course, those are always the ones that go viral for me. I had one that was a TikTok about banned graphic novels. And I called Alison Bechdel's memoir Fun House instead of Fun Home. And I knew when I was recording it, because I did I sometimes do like 60 takes to make one video. It's ridiculous. But I did it a couple of times where I said the right name and then I said the wrong name. And I was like, of course, the best one ended up being the one where I said it wrong and I put it up. And nice thing about that, though, I got so many comments of people correcting me that it kept pushing it through the algorithm because it was getting a lot of interaction. So find the bright side. It's fine. If you make a mistake and people are correcting you, you might have a video go viral because of that. Our bookstore squad friend Bob from Good Neighbor is currently having a video go really crazy because he did a meme that's like 10 years old and said, "Oh yeah, this was me 3 years ago." And everybody's correcting him saying, "That's not you." But it's like his best video yet. So I'm just saying, if you make a mistake, it's fine. It's going to actually help you probably.
And I just checked to see if it is later, but this is probably a good time to talk about hooks or things that keep people watching. TikTok's goal, because anything that lets you use it for free is using you in a way too. TikTok wants to keep people on its app as long as possible, which means they want to up video content that keeps people watching it. A lot of times that means there's we will often do a hook that is, you something to keep people watching. Another thing you can do is a controversial statement, responding to a trending topic, and a trending topic being something current happening in the world. We'll talk a little bit about, I have screenshots of what the TikTok page looks like now. Trending sounds and the Discover page on TikTok are currently changing because TikTok is an app that is always in flux, which means that I don't think you need to over worry about what is necessarily the trending sound for all of TikTok and recreating a video with that. I think a lot of times those get lost and might not be the best representation of your individual brand versus you will have a piece of content that does super well because it is individual and new and interesting. And a lot of times those come from things that only you could add to the conversation. What do you as a bookseller offer as somebody who just really likes books or somebody who, anyway. So controversial statements / hooks / keep people watching. That is your goal.
And as booksellers, we obviously are experts at books. When you're looking at Book Talk, which is the segment of TikTok where all of the bookish people hang out, you will find that there are people who are doing certain things really well. And if there are a lot of people doing this thing really well, you probably don't need to add to it because there's a lot of noise already over there. When I started doing TikToks for the store, we're an all ages, all genre store. But I noticed on Book Talk, there was a lot of people doing adult content. There was a lot of people doing YA content. There was nobody doing kids books. That's why I was like, oh, well, I love kids books. We have a cool kids section. I'll start talking about this. And because TikTok has such a wide range of audience ages, it's not just teenagers now. There's a lot of millennials on TikTok who have kids and want to find cool books for their kids. So just saying, if you want to join me in the kids lane, there's a lot of room over here because there's still not I've been doing it for over a year now. And there's still not a whole lot of people doing TikTok specifically with kids books. So
again, you don't have to not use trending sounds or anything like that, but TikTok is now big enough, as we said earlier, that there is an audience for what you want to make. And sometimes there's just not people making that thing. On this slide, we also have notes to talk about very quickly. TikTok is also auto-transcribing you as you speak. It auto-generates captions, unlike Instagram, where the searchable phrase needs to be in hashtags or in the description of the content. TikTok actually allows people to search by what you say in the video because it's auto-transcribing, and that's something that is built into that algorithm. It is a really, really nuanced, beautiful thing, and that's one of the pieces. So similarly, it doesn't like when you're outright necessarily selling things. It doesn't love phrases like link in bio, which is a go-to YouTube, Twitter phrase, etc. We used to always be we're an indie bookstore. You can buy these on our store, on our web store, and we ship. And we're seeing now maybe a little bit of a decrease in engagement on those because it sounds a little kitschy. So find new ways to say those things. I still want to drive traffic to your web stores and everything else. But things like we're an indie bookstore and we ship, so you know what to do, clever ways to get around those things. The auto transcribing is good to know. Also, if you say things like, I'm so sorry, I know that you're recording. If you say things like murder or sex or anything like that, you do need to put an asterisk or rewrite it in the captions because it will put your video under review, or it'll show it to a smaller group of people because it thinks that you could be creating bad content.
And you'll find that there's a whole language on TikTok too, because people have figured this out. I do a lot of queer books because obviously I'm a queer bookstore owner and I like to represent that on my TikToks. It hates that. So anytime that I say the word queer on TikTok, I have to edit it to be QU33R. You find different things like that. People will do SEGGS instead of sex. Unaliving is instead of murder. So you will pick up as you're on there, like what other people are doing. And another thing that we have found, or I have found often, I am really big on captioning all of my videos to make them accessible for people who are hard of hearing, or like if you're up at 3 a.m. with your kid and you don't want it to be making noise. But you will find creators who make certain content that if they caption it, it pulls back what they're doing. So if you're talking about anything controversial, if you're talking about things with representation or anything like that, sometimes TikTok says they're protecting us, but what they're really doing is just kind of censoring that content, because they say it's to protect us from people who are like trying to advocate like hate crimes and stuff. But it's Pride Month, and I've had so many videos get under review because I'm talking about queer books, and I'm like, really, TikTok? What is happening?
It's a little game. There's a whole different language, which is true for every web platform, but TikTok happens so fast. Okay. So that was a lot of information just about like best practices. Let's talk a little bit about just like how to physically record a video, just like some basics. And later when we go out and do it, we'll be able to split up based on if you've done this before. Here you can see me in the shipping room of our store. Ignore the mess. I'm sure you have one too. Don't judge.
Your mess looks less messy than mine.
So this is if you were to record in the TikTok app as opposed to in your individual phone. And that's just because I want to be able to show you the buttons. Maybe we get up for this portion. I know I have maybe an eyeliner in my bag. The big red button, which is not helpful because I was wearing pink, is on there. It's circled in green. That is the button that you will use to record. You can hold it down or you can tap it. You can hold it down for a full minute. TikTok lets you record up to 3 minutes. Can you show the little timestamps? I circled over it. So TikTok has 3 time settings. One is 15 seconds, one is 60 seconds, and one is 3 minutes. You do have to choose that ahead of time. So if you think you're going to be I always choose 3 minutes so that I can go and edit myself down later and just so that I don't go over or whatever. You can do it a few different ways. You can like hold it down just like the whole way through. TikTok does not let you, if you've done other kind of editing, jump cuts, which means like it doesn't let you splice a video and then re-edit it down. So if you're going to talk in segments and be like, I read this great book today, it was about blank, I would suggest you start and stop. And that way you can trim down those individual segments. Did that make sense? Great. So glad to hear it. When you are ready to go like check your clips. Are you giving examples? Can you point to the little red check mark? That'll signal to TikTok that you are done recording, and then you can go to adjust clips, which is circled in green, and that is how you get to their editing platform. Are there questions about this slide? And also, Nicole, you didn't get to talk, so sorry.
Another handy feature that's on this screen, if you are recording in TikTok, it's like my favorite thing about recording in TikTok. It's the timer function, which is on this first screen. It's the second button up from the bottom. It looks like a little, I'm too short. It's like right here. There we go. It's right there. It's that one. Sorry. It's really helpful if you're using a trending sound where you're going to be like miming along with the trending sound. When you click on that, it'll give you an option of either doing a 3-second or a 10-second like countdown. So that way, like your videos aren't always like you pushing the start stop button. It's just a thing for me. It's one of the many reasons why I usually film outside of TikTok, because I really hate that about myself when I'm like, okay. So if you do the little timer function, you can set it and take a step back so you're in the screen really well and you're far enough away from it. And if you're doing it with a sound, it helps with like cutting those sounds in. So that's one of my things that I really like about filming inside of TikTok. The nice thing when you film outside of TikTok, like I do my video, you can do multiple videos and then cut them together inside of TikTok. Or if you're like me and you're kind of slightly masochistic, you can just do the whole thing in one go. But this little button right here, it says upload, and that is where you would pull the videos that you've made off of your phone. And what's cool with that is you don't have to then pick your 15, 60, or 3 minute. You just upload all of the videos and then you can trim it down to whatever size you want. And then one thing with the time frame, I actually have the ability to do 10-minute videos now. I know, it's fancy. I have never, ever. Well, the wild thing about it is that they actually don't. When they gave me the 3-minute video, I was like, oh, cool. I can go longer than a minute. I can breathe when I'm actually doing recommendations. Nope. It really hates that for some reason. It gives you the option, but TikTok really still wants it to be short form videos. This app was made, I'm convinced, by people who have ADHD, and people like me who have ADHD really love this because they're short videos. So you really want to stick under a minute, even though it does give you the option to go longer. Also, if you're over a minute, you can't duet or stitch, which are 2 words we will explain in a minute. So.
Love that. Okay. Any questions?
We will also have a question time at the end too.
I just didn't want anybody to get super overwhelmed by that. Yes, we're going to talk about captioning. All right, let's talk about editing, and this will discuss all of that, which is great. As Nicole just talked about, if you import clips or if you filmed in the app, this all is kind of the same. So all of them are going to go on this timeline like you see at the bottom of this first page. And that is what it looks like when you individually trim a clip. So if you're editing a video where you go, okay, so here's the thing that I think about this book. What I would do is I would edit out the part where you say, because dead time is time that people swipe. Like if you're watching a video and you realize that there's a ton of like dead time and you're not engaged anymore, that's when I just automatically swipe because I'm like, there's too much to consume and I don't have time for this. So I edit out my super long pauses, and this is where you would trim the clip to do that. You can also select your individual different clips underneath that. And then you'll be able to play them all together to see how they flow. So like sometimes I accidentally clip out an end of my word and then I have to re-edit that. And it's a really easy, very intuitive process. Again, there's a workshop element to this, so we'll be able to kind of talk about it and walk through it in a little bit of an easier way. But nobody needs to get scared or overwhelmed by it. Do you want to talk a little bit about captioning? Because it's viewable from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So captioning, again, like I said, I do captioning on all of my videos because it's just really important to me for accessibility. And I'm also, I have auditory processing issues. So when I'm watching videos, if there's not captions, I usually just scroll by because I can't understand what people are saying. So when you are in your video and you have got it all uploaded, you got everything clipped to how you want to be, and you want to add your captions, TikTok doesn't do it automatically, which is a complaint that I have about it. But you're going to click on this button right there, and it'll say captions. It's very obvious when you're actually in the app. And then it's going to take a minute. If you are somebody like me who talks really fast, it sometimes takes a little longer because it's trying to understand what I'm saying. And it's going to do its best guess of what you've said in that video. And then when you have got all of the captions uploaded, it'll show on the screen, it'll show, and then you can edit individual words. And that's where you're going to want to go in and censor those potentially words that are going to make TikTok mad. You can fix any mistakes that it makes from its transcription. You can edit names because those are always wrong when I do captions. And then you can adjust where the captions show on your TikTok. When I film, you might notice there's always a pretty big gap above my head because that's where I'm going to put my captions. So that way they're not covering the books. When you're showing books, usually the books show towards the bottom. Captions will automatically go to the bottom. I just scoop them right up to the top so they're not covering over the book because the caption bar itself is see-throughable. That's not a word, but it's not great when you're trying to highlight books. So I just leave room at the top of my video and I just put the captions up there at the top and I correct all of them. And that's captions. They're super, super important. I cannot stress them enough that they're incredibly important just for engagement and accessibility. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So when you're in TikTok and you do the thing, you can just pause your video and the editing portion, and we can show you during the workshop part. The editing portion of the captions part, you can just make it the whole screen, and you won't have to hear your video playing over and over again in the background. I like listening to myself talk, so I don't mind having it go. And that's just a personal preference thing, but you can just pause the video too and have it so you can edit the captions. Yeah. So that we don't know for sure, but you will definitely notice that your content doesn't get seen by as many people. Or there's this thing called processing health, which is where your video, after you post it, normally you post the video and it goes immediately onto your page and it starts showing on the FYP. But if you notice, hey, there's been 0 views on this video for like an hour, and you click into it and you try and share it, that's how I always check to see when I try and share it, it'll say up at the top, video is in processing. Yeah, that means some bot somewhere is looking it over.
But it's within 3 days, so it will take the momentum out of your content, especially. Yeah, I also use the captioning, watching it 500 times to make sure I've said nothing unsavory. Like that's like my manic time to be like, okay, is everything okay? Okay, we talked a little. Okay, the bottom next portion would be where you go to put your like description of the video. We very rarely take that seriously. That's not the main thing that TikTok's necessarily looking for. Hashtags, with the way the algorithm has changed, are now more important theoretically, which is great. TikTok used to be like a big For You page that then would find where you lie and show you more things. Now picture it more like columns. So now it's going to understand if you have a hashtag FYP, meaning For You page, hashtag book talk, and then like a very specific thing that you're talking about. It's getting more intuitive into who it's showing the content to and earlier. But hashtags right now, as there is no discover page, are more important. So if you have previously gotten information that hashtags don't really matter, as of June of this year, they do more. And I'm still learning that. And again, fuck around and find out. It's not a huge stressor, but they are more searchable. You'll also find if you put in something like book talk recommendations, there's like 1 billion videos with that. So try to get as specific as you can. So if you hashtag queer books, you might as well like hashtag sapphic books, or like go down into the individual rep, like pansexual books, things like that, to get as narrow and niche as people might be looking for those things, because that's what people are searching for when they're searching those terms. Yes.
And then also as you're typing in the portion about what you want to do, you're very limited on how much space you have. Is it like 150 characters or something? It's very small, which is really hard for me to do. So prioritize your hashtags instead of like writing a caption, because nobody reads the captions like at all. So you really want to prioritize the hashtags, because that's going to get you onto the FYP of the audience that you want to find. And the nice thing with it, as you're typing in your hashtags on that screen, it's going to pop up like a recommendations, like what do they think that you're going to type? And it will tell you how many views that hashtag has. And I do a mix. Like I do a mix of some of the bigger, broader ones, and then I do some very niche ones, because if you do just big billion view hashtags, you're going to get lost in the noise of everybody else using that hashtag. So I'll do like book talk, which is ginormous. And then I'll do kids books, because that's, again, there's not a lot of people doing kids books on TikTok. So that's very small, and things like that. And it's also very helpful. TikTok will also help people who are local to you find you. So if I'm talking about an event that I'm doing, or I'm talking about something that I'm going to, I'll put the hashtag of the city name in there. And that will help. Like I'm from West Michigan, so I'll put hashtag West Michigan. And people from West Michigan then start seeing my content more, and they know that I'm a indie bookstore that they can come shop in person with. So you will be surprised at how many people local to you can find you on the FYP and then come shopping in person with you.
If we're talking about the value to your store, it was wild when our book talk started gaining traction, how many people came in and they were like, I live in Webster Groves, which is not a big town. I had never heard of you. And then you came up on my TikTok. And I was like, you live in this little hamlet with us. How had you not walked down your block? And it was really, really wild. TikTok has such a large reach. I promise you, there are people who maybe like just genuinely aren't aware, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because this is exactly what this kind of app is created for. It is both huge in its scope and hyper local because of the way it is able to find people based on algorithms. So definitely use that to your advantage. We talked a little bit about like engagement. There are a few things that make a TikTok go viral. And it's not a thing that you can necessarily teach. Nicole has videos that have millions of views. I have used videos that have hundreds of thousands. It doesn't necessarily impact the view counts on our other videos, and it doesn't impact like the goal of TikTok should be to regularly engage a group of people who will engage back, and to continue to grow within your sphere, either to make web sales or to find people in your area. So like virality doesn't necessarily need to be the goal, because that might not be the most useful to you as a bookstore. Does that make sense? The amount of comments is hugely important. So like we said earlier, sometimes a controversial topic can help. We always end our videos and start our videos with a question that people can answer. So one of ours that did well recently was just like, here was my most recent 5-star read. I trust 5-star reading recommendations. What was your most recent 5-star read? Most of the comments were other books that people had talked about. And then some of the comments were like, oh my gosh, I would definitely want to read this thing that you just recommended, because they left their comment and then they left a second one at the end. And that is great. Like that re-engagement and that continued engagement. You can like a video. Now you can favorite a video. And the creme de la creme is the sharing of a video. So if you see that little arrow on the bottom right-hand side, it doesn't show on this one. It's like when you're watching a video. Again, TikTok's goal, A, to keep you on the app as long as possible, B, to get people who are not currently watching TikToks. Maybe they're watching a movie in their room. Maybe they are on Instagram. They want you to send a text to your friend with a TikTok link that your friend will then open TikTok and then keep scrolling. So anything that is shareable off the app is huge. Like that is hugely important to TikTok. So think about that when you're making your content. Like think about the kind of content that you send to other people. And you don't have to replicate it, but knowing that kind of thing is going to be really helpful when you're starting to make your own content.
And definitely keep it short and simple and fast. Again, this app is made for us ADHD people. So we like keep it going, keep it interesting, keep it fast, keep it, kind of, if you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Just go with it. And like the things that I have found that people really love, particularly about following indie bookstores, they love all of the behind the scenes stuff. They love knowing about the weird little things that we do, the quirks, how our bookstores work, how we got started. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah, I have a playlist, which is another thing that you can do. It says right here, add to playlist. As you get more content on right there. As you get more content on TikTok, you can group your videos together to make it easier for people to find more similar things. So one of my playlists that I have is called Bookstore Tales. And it's literally just like, I had a kid in today who corrected me because I thought, this thing was whatever and they were right and I was wrong. And it's just like a cute, fun, we all have those, like the cute little customers who, whatever it is. And those are some of my best videos because people just love bookstore stories. Like they love what makes us what we are. And so people who don't have a bookstore local to them don't get to have those same interactions as our customers who come into the store. So again, focus on what we do best as bookstores and do that on TikTok. Share your behind the scenes stories, share your funny customer stories, share your ridiculous, I messed up and did this thing stuff. Like people love that. And as with engagement, you'll notice there are a couple of drivers for that. Again, the sharing is the biggest one. In the first half hour after you post your video, TikTok is going to send it out to a segment of people. If those segment of people like it and engage with it, they're going to send it out to a larger group of people. If that first segment of people don't like it, that video is probably not going to do that great, which is fine. Sometimes I call them sleeper videos. Yeah, I'll have a video that the day I post it gets a couple hundred views and I'm like, oh, well, that was a waste of time. And then 3 days later, suddenly it's gaining a lot of traction. So don't get too discouraged by like what your views are showing you on your TikTok. Try not to look at those. Novel Neighbors is much more kind of steady and organic. Like their views are all pretty good, and you guys have been like, it's just nice, which I kind of like. I've had like 2 videos go crazy viral, and I'm constantly like, why isn't my video going viral like that? You have no idea. You're never gonna know what's gonna go viral. So don't try and shoot for that. And if you do have one go viral, just pretend it's never gonna happen again, because you'll set yourself up for disappointment if you're constantly trying to have something go viral.
We're going to talk about features in the app really quickly, because we want to make sure that we leave time for questions and get you out into the world to create a TikTok. But another thing about keeping people in the app as long as possible, if we're doing a book recommendation, often we will pitch the book and then reveal the book at the end. Sometimes that means that the truly savvy TikTok users like myself will just fast forward to the end of the video, but not everyone will. Some people will watch the whole thing and that's like the goal, right? So you can play around with little tricks like that. If we have a lot of book recommendations, we don't do that, just if it's like one book. Do you want to talk about some features? Do you duet and stitch? We never do.
Okay. So duetting is where you will have both videos showing up together, and it's the entire length of the other person's video, and you are reacting to it or adding to it in some way. Your sound is not going to over their sound, so it's whatever they're saying and doing, and then you're like reacting to it. Stitching is where you're gonna do 5 seconds or less of their video, and then you're gonna respond to it. I find it just goes back and forth for me. Sometimes when I stitch a video, it does really, really well. And then sometimes it doesn't. And so I save them for things that are really important to me, or that I think are really important in that time, or are doing really well, or I have something that I can add to it of value. But I generally like hold out on those, and I don't do them very often.
With a duet, it's going to show up in people's FYPs like it looks like in the center slide. Like they're going to see both videos together. With a stitch, they're going to see the other person's video first and then yours. You might want to add some words at the top that say stitch incoming, because a lot of times people will share stitches with somebody who's already seen the original video. And so it would be helpful for the person watching to not think that they're getting the same video twice. So those little things will help people stay engaged with content like that. And there's genuinely there's good times to use it. A lot of the bookstores on Book Talk have like a really large community. They respond to each other. They make content with each other. They use the same sounds and do similar book recommendations. And these are like all different tools to use that engagement and to like build that community. We just use them sparingly, which is not a bad thing. Yes. Interesting. You can do both. Yeah, TikTok is so. Yes, you can turn off your duets and you can turn off your stitches if you don't want other people to use your content. And so anything that is available to duet or to stitch is a fair use under TikTok. We talked a little bit about trending sounds. When TikTok was created, it was originally an app called Musical.ly, and it was a lip syncing video app. And so the whole goal was to lip sync to music and to songs. TikTok is obviously not that anymore, but because how it started, the trending sounds are the things that a lot of people remember, the viral dances. Nobody wants to see me dance. I'm so glad we've moved past this as a singular movement. TikTok used to have a discover page, which listed all of the trending sounds. And when you clicked on the trending sound, you could watch all of the major videos that were using that sound. As we discussed, TikTok recently did a redesign and an algorithm change. You can still find sounds that are trending across the board. What TikTok wants you to do is find sounds that are trending in your niche. So theoretically now, sounds are going to trend within Book Talk that are very important to Book Talk, and using those sounds will help you more than using a sound that was trending across TikTok might have. Here is how you find sounds now. If you have filmed and you have edited, at the very top of your page, it'll have an add sound button, and that will allow you to add a music track on that you did not film with necessarily. You could also film with it if you wanted. There, you will go to this all of the sounds that are currently on TikTok. And there are several playlists, and one of the playlists is TikTok Viral. You can also search playlists based on like individual TikTok communities. So that can help you find the sounds that might be like more helpful for what kind of videos you want to make. This is all very new, so I'm hoping I'm giving you solid information.
It is always changing. So the fuck around and find out is the best advice if you take nothing else from this to do. You can also save sounds. So when you're looking here, you'll see discover or favorites. And so often when I'm scrolling TikTok at 3:00 in the morning, because that's what I do, I will see videos that I like and I will save the sound from that because I'm like, oh, I want to use that later. If you look at my TikTok, I have probably like 300 sounds saved that I've used maybe 2 of. 3:00 me has the best intentions that never actually follow through. But it is a really cool thing that you can do. You can save videos, and you can, like, I have one that's literally like ideas for the store. So when I'm at work and I'm like, I know I have to post a TikTok, I am not inspired, I don't know what to do, I'll just scroll through my like saved for the store ones and be like, oh, I like this sound. So I actually use viral sounds that are like 6 months old then, but just kind of nice because now like they're just like, I'm like, oh, I'm bringing it back. We're throwbacking now. So.
Videos, they'll be like, show me a book that you loved more than anything. Show me a book you wish you wouldn't have read. You can save that sound and then you can make a video over that. That's another great option if you don't want to share your face, because you can just hold a book up to the camera. Again, I would suggest TikTok is a platform that would like you to do that. And you all look lovely. So yeah.
When you are, does it show on this one? It's in when you're watching a video. So this first one here is what it looks like when you're watching a video. At the bottom, there's 3 little dots and you click on that and then this pops up. So you can either send it to somebody you're friends with on TikTok. You can send it to somebody off TikTok through like it's like next to those. And then there's a button that says save. Is it? Oh, yes. Is it? Oh, favorites. This little fire one, I think is what it is. So you click on that. And then if you're really kind of particular like I am, you can create little like categories of your saved favorites. Like I have some that are like my other random stuff I watch on TikTok, like gardening videos, like I pretend I'm going to garden someday. And then I have like the ones that are just saved for the store. So yeah. That is a great question. Mm-hmm. I generally recommend don't do the business account because you're going to be kept from being able to use a lot of the regular trending sounds. And also TikTok is going to be like, I don't know if I want to push you because you're going to try and sell people stuff. So the benefits of doing a business account is you can have a clickable link in your bio sooner. You have to have 1,000 followers on TikTok as on a personal account to have a clickable link in your bio. But again, TikTok doesn't like you saying, go click the link in my bio. So that's helpful-ish. That's really the one benefit I feel of being in a business account sooner. Once you're over 1,000 followers, you can have the clickable link. You can do all of the things that are the benefit of the business, and you can switch them. So you can start with one and switch it to the other. So you could start with a business as you're starting, so you can have that clickable link, and then switch it back over to personal once you get over 1,000. I'm at a weird place now where I don't know because of how many followers I have. I don't know if I have it because of how many followers I have or what style my account is set up as, because I honestly don't remember what I'm at the moment. Yeah.
But TikTok occasionally will be like, are you sure you don't want to be a business account? You know that you are.
Yes, it does try to figure out. Same thing with like all social media platforms. You don't want to constantly be trying to sell people stuff. It wants it to feel like a natural, engaging thing. Because obviously we're sharing books and we sell books. It's a very natural thing to be like, oh, you can buy this from us. You just want to, like we said, you want to limit that because TikTok will hear it and be like, don't push that.
We do that quite a bit, and I don't want it to like sound like you can't, because we get good sales from TikTok, and that is like that conversion was a thing I wanted to see if we could do, and we do it. We sold, I think way back when we made a Honey Girl video that sold, I think, like 75 books that we shipped out. There was a video that sold upwards of 300. And so like that can happen. You just have to be creative about how you say it.
And one benefit too, when I started, I was a sole operator owner of the bookstore. I don't have the ability or the capacity to send out 75 books to people. So I just put my bookshop.org link in there, and I can just send people right to that, which is such an easy thing, especially when you do have a video that goes viral and you're not stuck sending out thousands of books. You get to make bookshop.org do all of that work in the back. Yeah. Yeah. So when you duet somebody's, it's going to automatically put into the like captions part, duet with so-and-so. And that will make them be able to go back to the original video. So if somebody, you want people to duet and stitch you, like that is only beneficial to you. There's like, you want that because it's going to push your content to more people who will be able to find you. So that is another reason why I keep all of my videos to a minute or less, because then I can keep duet and stitch on.
The only argument against that is if you fall prey to a bad side of TikTok that is full of hate or anything like that. A lot of times if people have turned off duetting or stitching, it's because they've been victims to like internet bullying. And so that's like one thing to be aware of. There are ways to protect yourself on TikTok if TikTok does that. Like, again, it's an algorithm. It's trying to get more intuitive to not share your content to people who like would be harmful or hateful towards you. But it is not perfect. And sometimes things, so that is the singular thing against.
And I will say, as somebody who's kind of used to internet bullying and hate, I like it because they're still getting my content out to more people. So it's just increasing my views. So I just ignore them when hateful people duet and stitch my stuff. And again, if you're in a niche that's going to be more likely to get that as a queer bookseller, as I'm unfortunately kind of in that niche that's going to be likely to have people who do that. Personally, for me and my boundaries, I'm fine with it because you're increasing my views. And when people like will comment hateful stuff on my posts, I'll be like, thanks for the algorithm booth. Have a great day. And it just is. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there are ways like you can turn off duet and stitch after the pack too. Like you can start with it, and if you start noticing like bad things are happening, yeah, we're going to turn this off now, and we can turn it back on later after things calm down or something like that. Yeah. If it's on TikTok and it lets you use it, it's fair game, but be aware that that sound might get taken down later. One of the reasons, if on probably 99% of my videos, I don't have any background music at all on it. It's literally just me talking, because I'm just always like, I don't need the music on there. And if it comes down, it messes with your added sound to it. So that's kind of like a downside to it. But if it's on TikTok, then it's fair game to use.
I feel like TikTok owns it, if I'm being honest, but I don't know. Oh. You know, while you all are out filming, I can look that up. That'll be a fun little activity for me. The other thing that I would say about that is if you download your video from TikTok to upload it into Instagram Reels, many of your accounts on Instagram will be business accounts, and it's extremely limited on what sounds you can use. So just be aware of that. Like TikTok is not going to, like if you use watermelon sugar on TikTok, you cannot, it'll download it without the sound, and you won't be able to find watermelon sugar on Instagram. So some of that content won't be able to be cross-platform friendly. What do I do in those situations? I don't do a ton of videos that are music based because of that. I use a lot of fair use music. Like if I'm doing like our book club announcements on our Instagram Reels, I use a free video editor called VN. It has fair use compliant music built into it. So if I want something that's like springy and just a background guitar strum to keep people watching, that can go cross post. It is not nearly as fun. And again, I think TikTok is best used quickly. Like don't overproduce and respond fast. And like if you see a sound is trending and you want to use it, do it. And if it gets taken down in a month, you still got the views off the video. So Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, there's a couple of options for what you can do. There's something called Linktree. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Linktree. That's what I have in my bio is my Linktree because I can add stuff to it all the time. Like when I do have something that's store specific, like right now we have our literary pride shirts that are available. And I use it for like, it has all my other links on it as well. I most highly recommend that as what's going to be in your bio because it gives you a lot of flexibility. If you're only going to put one link in there, just make sure it's your most important link. When you are setting up your profile, there's an edit spot, and that's where you can add your link. Before you get to the 1,000 and you have the clickable link, you can still put a link there for people to copy and paste. People don't really do that because they want to make it as easy as possible. But yeah, I do Linktree, and I have my bookshop.org link in there. I have my website link there, and then I pull out, like, I do mystery boxes, which, by the way, if you are a bookstore on Book Talk and you don't do mystery boxes, you should consider doing it. People love that and they eat it up like crazy. So I have like our mystery box link on there. I have like anything that I have that's kind of important to the store at that time. I update my Linktree and I just change those.
We're gonna have a Q&A section at the end.
After the workshopping part. Okay. Oh, we did. We're like we have 2 minutes actually. We're like right at the spot. Yeah, we'll take one more comment before we go and yeah. Oh, yeah. So mystery boxes are where you curate, because this is what we do really, really well. Again, when you're on TikTok, do not overthink it. Do what we do really well. One thing we do really well is we help people find books. So mystery boxes, you can set them up a bunch of different ways depending on how your website and stuff works. Mine, people fill out a form and they just say, I like XYZ books. I hate ABC books. Pick these genres for me. And then they set their budget. And then I go and pick out books for them. Like, you can have a link where people can add like their Goodreads or their story graph to it, which is really helpful. I generally don't look at those when they add them to me because I forget about it. And then it makes really great content because I will sometimes be like, oh, hey, Susie asked for romance books with this and that. And then I'll show people what I picked for them before I send it out. But yeah, oh man, people love mystery boxes.
That doesn't require you to say buy this, which is great. Okay, this is a workshop. We are now going to work, and I don't have anything to shop, but next you're going to film. So you get 10 minutes. There's many of you in here. I would suggest that we all use each other, and you can have a friend in this video. The point is for you to become comfortable with pressing record on the app, editing down clips on the app. And because we are here, we will be able to help. We'll split the group a little bit so that we can individually come around to folks and talk through some of the things. So we are going to release you for 10 minutes. You can use trending sounds. You don't have to. You can feature other people in your stores, people in different stores. If you make a masterpiece, you can post it. If you hate it, you don't have to. This is really a free-for-all. Please come back in 10 minutes. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!